I was halfway through dinner when I got the text. Leave now. Don't drink anything. Don't say a word. It came from a number I didn't recognize. My glass of peach juice was already sweating on the table. My mother was smiling. My father was talking about road work. And my sister was scrolling through her phone like nothing was wrong. But something was wrong. Because 30 minutes later, I'd be pretending to pass out on their living room couch, while my family, my own blood, used my unconscious body to try and rob me. And the worst part? They didn't hesitate. They had a plan. And they'd done this before. It had been 8 months since I last stepped foot in my childhood home. 8 months of silence, missed calls, and texts left unanswered. So when my mom invited me for dinner, just us, Gracie, no pressure, I hesitated. But a part of me, the one still trying to believe in family, said yes. The drive to Astoria was quiet. The Oregon coast was bathed in gold, the radio low, and for a second it felt like I was headed toward healing, like maybe they had changed. When I arrived, the front door was open. My mother's voice floated from the kitchen like honey. "Dinner's ready, sweetheart, come in." The table was already set. Roast chicken, mashed potatoes, green beans with a little too much garlic. A familiar glass sat waiting at my place. Peach juice, no ice. The same brand I used to drink as a teenager. My dad stood slowly as I entered, half hesitating between a hug and a nod. We settled on the nod. Amber was already at the table, scrolling through her phone with that practiced indifference. She glanced up, gave me half a smile, then went right back to TikTok or whatever had her attention. I sat down. My seat had been pulled out for me. The plate was warm, the conversation light. "How's work? Still living in the city? Traffic's awful lately, huh?" I smiled, answered politely, even laughed when Amber brought up a coworker who locked herself in the janitor's closet. It wasn't funny, but I knew how to play my role. The quiet one, the easy one, the one who never stirred the pot. Then, just as my dad launched into a familiar rant about how Portland's infrastructure was falling apart, my phone buzzed in my lap. I glanced down. An unknown number, one message, no emojis, no fluff, just text. "Leave now, don't drink anything, don't say a word." I blinked. The room around me carried on. My mom was laughing. Amber was twirling pasta onto her fork. My dad was still griping about potholes. Everything looked normal, felt normal, but the message sat heavy in my lap like a brick. My first thought, spam, or a wrong number, or maybe some TikTok prank, but my gut told me otherwise. There was something in the way the words were written. No casual tone, no friendly phrasing, just clipped, exact sentences, like someone trying not to panic. I excused myself. "Be right back, bathroom," I said. No one flinched, no one even looked up. I headed upstairs to the guest bathroom, the only one in the house that still locked properly. Sat on the edge of the tub, phone clutched in both hands. I stared at the message again, then hit call. One ring, then a voice. "You're still there? Who is this?" "It's Ryan." My stomach dropped. Ryan, Amber's ex-boyfriend, the one who used to bring over movies and microwave popcorn and always offered to help with dishes. "What's going on?" I whispered. "You need to get out of there. Just leave. Now." "Why? What is this?" There was a pause, a beat of silence that stretched too long. "It's the juice," he finally said. "I think they put something in it. Alcohol, maybe. Something to knock you out." I froze. "I haven't had any." "Good. Don't. And don't confront them. Just go." I wanted to ask 1,000 questions. Why would they do this? Why now? But deep down, something already knew. Ryan spoke again, softer this time. "They want access to your phone, Grace. The fingerprint. That's why they asked you over." I felt something twist inside me. Not fear exactly, something deeper. Like the moment you realize your home isn't safe, that maybe it never really was. I ended the call, sat there a moment longer, long enough to decide what to do. And that's when I knew I wasn't just going to leave. I was going to find out the truth. I took a slow breath in the bathroom, flushed the toilet for effect, washed my hands, and walked back down the hallway like nothing had happened. When I reached the stairs, I paused for half a second, not long enough to be suspicious, just enough to listen. Clinking silverware, soft conversation, laughter that didn't quite reach the throat. They were still playing their parts. I descended the stairs, my heart steady even though my pulse had begun a quiet panic. I smiled when I stepped back into the room. They didn't ask if I was okay. No one really looked up. I sat down. The glass of peach juice was still there, condensation dripping down the side. I reached for it, tilted it slightly, and offered a casual smile. "Tastes just like I remember," I said. But I didn't take a sip. Instead, I waited. I let them settle back into their rhythm. My mom asked about my apartment. My dad made a joke about parking in the city. Amber said something about a client who thought ROI meant return on ice cream. I laughed at all the right times. And when the moment came, the tiny break in the noise, I used it. Was that someone pulling into the driveway? I asked, glancing toward the front window. All three heads turned. That's when I quietly slipped my hand under the table, angled the glass over the thick rug beneath me, and poured. Not the whole thing, just enough. A slow, soaking trail of amber juice disappearing into the fibers. Then I slouched slightly in my chair, let my shoulders sag, and rubbed my eyes. "You okay?" Mom asked, voice soft with that high-pitched concern she used when she wanted to sound maternal. "Yeah, just, I don't know, a little dizzy, probably tired." Dad stood up almost too quickly. "Why don't you lie down for a minute?" "Yeah," Amber chimed in. "You never used to handle drinks well." Mom was already pulling the throw blanket off the armchair. "The couch is comfy." And just like that, I was being guided gently toward the living room like I was made of glass. I let them lay me down. I let my eyes flutter closed. I breathed slow and steady, counting each inhale like it might save me. That's when I heard it. "Is she out?" my mother whispered. "Yeah," Amber said. "She's totally out." A beat. "Okay, let's do this quickly." I felt it before I heard it, the weight shift on the cushion beside me, the subtle brush of fingers as someone lifted my hand. My thumb was pressed against the phone's sensor, slowly, precisely, like they were handling a delicate machine. A faint click, then a buzz, unlocked. They didn't gasp, they didn't hesitate, they had practiced this. "We're in," Amber whispered. Then came tapping, furious but careful, a pause. "It's asking for a code," she muttered. "Two-step verification?" my mom asked. "Yeah, she changed it." Dad cursed under his breath. "Try another app." More tapping, frustration seeping through their silence. "Still locked," Amber finally said. A pause. Then my mother, "Just put it back, we'll try another time." And they did. They placed the phone gently where it had been, rearranged my hand like a doll, smoothed the blanket over my legs, and sat back down at the table. I waited, one full minute, then another. Finally, I opened my eyes, blinked slowly, and sat up like someone shaking off a nap. "Sorry," I murmured, not sure what that was. They all turned toward me, smiling like nothing had happened, like they hadn't just tried to rob me. "You sure you're okay?" Dad asked. "Yeah," I said. "I think I just need some fresh air." I stood, picked up my phone, held it like a secret they never guessed I knew. "Actually, I think I'm gonna head out. Got work early." They didn't argue, didn't offer to walk me out, just a chorus of practiced politeness. "Drive safe. Let us know when you get home. Thanks for coming." I smiled, hugged each of them one by one. And in that moment, when my mom's perfume hit my nose and my sister's arm brushed mine, I felt it, something I couldn't unfeel. This is the last time, I thought. After tonight, there's no going back. And then I left, not just the house. I left the role they had written for me. The drive home felt like I was leaving the scene of a quiet crime. No flashing lights, no screaming sirens, just the hum of the engine, the dark Oregon road, and the taste of something rotten clinging to the back of my throat. I didn't turn on the radio. I didn't call anyone. I just drove. My phone was still warm in my hand, like it had absorbed the memory of what had just happened. And in a way, it had. The background recording app I'd quietly installed last year after a tech conference security panel, just in case, had captured everything. Their voices, their coordination, their intent. All of it. I got back to my apartment just before midnight. I didn't shower, didn't eat. I just sat at my kitchen table, in the same chair I used for Zoom calls and bills and late-night coding sessions, and listened. Headphones in. Volume up? My mother's voice came through first, soft and syrupy. "She's out." Then Amber, casual and efficient. "We're in." The phone unlock, the tapping, the frustration when the two-step stopped them cold. And then the worst part? She always blacks out after a little alcohol. We just needed her thumb. She won't even notice the money's gone. I knew that tone, that terrifying calm that comes from people who believe what they're doing is justified, that this is just how families work. But this wasn't family. This was theft, cloaked in cranberry sauce and mashed potatoes. So I uploaded the file to the cloud. I backed it up to an encrypted drive. I saved the timestamps, every attempt on my bank app. I even took screenshots of the failed logins, the security warnings, the biometric scans that didn't match, because I'd changed the settings just 48 hours before dinner. Instead of using facial ID or thumbprint, I'd enabled manual passcode and a physical security token, one of those key fobs with rotating numbers, unhackable by anyone without it. They had no idea. They thought I'd just fallen asleep, that I was still the passive older daughter, the one who said yes because it was easier than conflict, the one who funded Amber's study abroad trip and never complained, the one who made good money now and could help out. They didn't know I'd stopped playing that part months ago. When Amber asked for 15 grand to cover her student emergency, I said no. When my parents guilted me for being selfish, I held the line. That's when the silence began, 3 months of zero contact. Until dinner. Until this. They hadn't invited me back to reconcile. They'd invited me back to access. And they almost got away with it if they hadn't underestimated two things: what I do for a living, and how much I've learned to stop trusting smiles. The next morning, I drove to the police station with the same calm I used to reserve for grocery runs. I walked in, waited behind a guy arguing about parking tickets. When it was my turn, I approached the glass and said, "I need to report a crime." The woman behind the desk raised an eyebrow. "What kind?" I looked her straight in the eye. "They drugged me, and they tried to steal from me. I have the recording." She blinked, surprised. "Do you know who did it?" "Yes," I said. "My parents. And my sister." When the officer led me into a small interview room, I expected questions, hard ones, doubtful ones, but instead he just listened. He let the audio play in full, no interruptions, no raised eyebrows. And when it ended, he looked at me and said quietly, "You know this wasn't the first time, right?" I nodded, not because I had proof of past crimes, but because I'd lived through the smaller versions all my life. This wasn't some sudden break in character. This wasn't a single betrayal. This was just the first time they got caught. I was 9 the first time I realized things were different for me and Amber. We both got $5 a week for allowance. I saved mine. She didn't. By Wednesday, she'd spent hers on bubblegum and glitter pens, and by Thursday, my mom would sigh and say, "Gracie, she doesn't have anything left. You still do. Don't be selfish." So I handed it over, quietly, because that's what good daughters did. In high school, I worked weekends at a pharmacy to buy my own jeans. Amber didn't work, because she was still young and needed to focus on school. When she wanted to see a movie or get new headphones, it was never her asking me, it was Mom. "She doesn't have a job yet. You do. Could you just cover this one thing?" And I always did. Because it was always just this once. College brought a little freedom. I moved 2 states away. I had roommates, late-night study sessions, a microwave that sparked when I made popcorn. I was broke, but I was finally my kind of broke. For a while, the requests stopped, or at least slowed down. But when I got my first real job as a junior developer, barely scraping by with student loans and rent, they started again. Books are expensive. Her enrollment deposit is due. She's stressed, Gracie. Just help her get started. I thought earning money would make helping feel easier. It didn't. The more I made, the more they asked, and somehow none of it ever felt like mine. Then came the alcohol. Not theirs, mine. In my early 20s, I learned the hard way that my body can't handle it. 1 drink and I'm dizzy. 2 and I'm on the floor. I blacked out once from half a glass of wine. After that, I stopped completely. No sips, no toasts, not even champagne at weddings. They knew, they always knew. But they never took it seriously. "Come on, it's just one. Don't be dramatic. You're not allergic, you're just uptight." It wasn't about the drink, it was about the dismissal. They couldn't stand the idea of me saying no to something, especially something they thought was harmless. My boundaries were treated like insults. When I finally said no to the big ask, $15,000 to cover Amber's gambling debt, they cut me off. Not just emotionally, completely. 3 weeks of silence, no calls, no texts, not even birthday messages. Until the invitation. Just dinner. Just the family. "Hope you'll come." I thought, maybe they'd let it go, maybe we could start over, but deep down I knew. This wasn't about reconnecting. This was a performance. The dinner, the juice, the softness in their voices, the practiced smiles. All of it choreographed to make me lower my guard. They didn't want to rebuild our relationship. They wanted what they always wanted. Access. So when the officer looked at me across the desk and said, they knew exactly what they were doing, I didn't cry. I didn't tremble. I just nodded and said, "So do I." The detective didn't ask me if I wanted to press charges. He just asked, "Do you understand what this means?" I looked him in the eye and said, "Yes, it means they finally crossed the line loud enough for someone else to hear it." 2 days later, I got the call. The case was moving forward. The evidence was too clean to ignore. The recording was gold. Every word, every tap, every whispered instruction spoken like second nature. They hadn't just attempted fraud. They had done it with coordination, calm, and calculation. The district attorney didn't hesitate. 3 names, 3 charges: attempted financial fraud, biometric data misuse, administering a substance without consent. They didn't even try to deny it. Once the detective shared the timestamps, the matching security logs, and the full audio with their public defender, their silence became their strategy. No defense, just surrender. The fallout came slow, then fast. A cousin I barely speak to messaged me, "Hey, I heard something happened with your folks. You okay?" I didn't respond. Because what do you say to that? Yeah, they tried to drug me and steal from my bank account. You know, typical family dinner. It's not a story that fits neatly into small talk. The sentencing was quiet. No courtroom drama, no sobbing apologies, just a plea deal and a rundown of conditions. 12 months probation. Fines. Community service. No contact. No jail time, but enough to leave a record. Enough to stain. They had to sell the house. Not because I sued them for damages, I didn't. But the legal fees, the financial investigation, the sudden collapse of everyone's reliable fallback took its toll. There was no one left to call for help. Because I was gone. Not emotionally distant, not taking a break. Gone. I changed my number, froze my credit, rewrote my will. I removed every emergency bypass contact they had. No more mom popping up on my lock screen. No more texts from Amber asking for a tiny favor. No more calls from Dad starting with, I hate to ask, but I didn't block them out of anger. I did it for oxygen. And breathing felt terrifyingly quiet at first. No noise, no need, no guilt. Just me. And for the first time, only me. Then the messages started. From new numbers, from friends of friends, from the silence trying to claw its way back. My mom, did you actually report us? Your own family? My sister, you made it worse than it had to be. It was just a mistake. My dad, in a voicemail I didn't listen to until days later. You think the police can fix this? You think this is justice? You're destroying your own blood. I let it sit in my inbox for 3 days. Then I texted back one final time. You drugged me. You tried to rob me. That's not family. That's a felony. And then I blocked them. Every single one swipe at a time. I didn't cry. I didn't shake. I felt clean. Not righteous, not proud, just done. You'd think cutting ties with your entire family would feel like a scream, like something shattering. But for me, it felt like silence finally getting the space it always deserved. No more texts, no more midnight emergencies, no more emotional debt hidden in birthday cards and fake apologies. Just quiet. And in that quiet, I found peace. I got used to the sound of my fridge humming in the morning, the feel of unlocking my apartment door and knowing every single thing in this place is mine. Every mug, every lamp, every jar of peanut butter on the shelf. Mine. I went back to work like nothing had happened. Fixed bugs, deployed code, helped a junior dev figure out her API call. No one knew. And that was the point. I wasn't carrying it around like a wound anymore. I wasn't trying to explain it to people who would flinch and say, but they're your family. Because yeah, they were. And they still did it. One Saturday afternoon, I stopped by a grocery store across town, somewhere I never used to go. I was picking up pasta, almond milk, some overpriced blueberries, the kind of trip where you don't think, you just move. That's when I saw her. Amber, wearing a red vest, name tag clipped to her collar, stacking paper towels with this blank look on her face, like the answers might be hiding behind the bounty rolls. She didn't see me, or maybe she did and just kept facing forward. I didn't stop her, I didn't speak. I paid for my groceries, walked out, let the moment pass like a cloud over a quiet sky. I heard later, through someone who still keeps up with everyone, that Ryan had left her, quietly, just packed his stuff and disappeared a few weeks after the truth came out. No drama, no fight, just done. Some exits don't need a speech. My parents, they moved out of their house, sold it to cover the legal costs. I don't know where they went. No one says, or maybe no one cares to. All I know is that the group chat they used to drop memes into, the one where I used to answer with a thumbs up just to keep the peace, dead, silent. I used to think peace would feel lonely, but it doesn't. It feels clear. It feels like waking up on a Saturday and realizing you owe no one anything. It feels like making yourself a coffee and sitting in your own silence, not because there's no one to talk to, but because no one is demanding you explain your worth today. Sometimes people ask, do you regret it? Not reporting them, just the distance, the finality, the cut. And I always give the same answer. No, I don't miss being useful. I don't miss being someone's plan B. They didn't go to prison. They didn't beg me for forgiveness. There was no dramatic courtroom breakdown or late-night call where someone finally whispered, I'm sorry. There was just a line, and I didn't cross it. I stood still, and I let it divide. Because sometimes survival doesn't look like fighting. Sometimes it looks like walking away and not turning around. So what do you think? Did I go too far? Or maybe just far enough? Sometimes the hardest goodbyes are the ones that never get said out loud. We're taught to forgive, to keep the peace, to make excuses for the people who raised us. But there comes a moment, quiet and sharp, when you realize love that costs your dignity isn't love at all. That silence isn't peace, and family doesn't mean ownership. Walking away wasn't easy, but it was honest. And in the space they used to occupy, I found something they never gave me. Freedom. If you've ever been the quiet one, the strong one, the one they counted on until you had nothing left to give, know this. You are allowed to choose yourself. Always. This is Sweet Revenge, Happy Ending. And sometimes peace is the best revenge of all.